You have always felt things deeply, even before you knew there was a word for it. You remember being a child and sensing the mood of a room before anyone spoke. You could feel tension in the air like a weight on your chest. You could feel joy as warmth spreading through your body. You did not learn this. It simply happened. Your heart stayed open because it did not know how to be any other way. In the beginning, being this sensitive felt like a gift. You noticed small changes in people. You listened carefully. You gave comfort without being asked. You felt useful and needed. Maybe you thought this was your purpose. To be the one who understands. To be the one who stays soft in a hard world. You trusted easily because you assumed others felt the way you did. You assumed care came naturally to everyone. The first times you were hurt, it confused you more than it wounded you. You remember thinking maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe they did not mean it. Maybe you were too sensitive. That thought came quickly and quietly. It felt reasonable. So you pushed your pain aside and stayed kind. You stayed present. You stayed open. Inside you, something subtle began to shift. It was not anger. It was not bitterness. It was more like a small question forming in the back of your mind. A question you did not want to look at too closely. Why does this keep happening to me? You did not say it out loud. You barely admitted it to yourself. Each time you were hurt again, your body remembered. Your chest tightened a little faster. Your stomach sank a little deeper. You started noticing the pattern even when you tried not to. The same kind of people. The same kind of disappointment. You gave understanding. They took it. You gave patience. They used it. You gave forgiveness. They assumed it would always be there. Psychology talks about the nervous system and how it learns through experience. For you, this learning happened quietly. Your system started scanning for danger even in moments that looked safe. You smiled. You listened. You nodded. But inside you were bracing. You were preparing for the moment something would go wrong again. You have always felt emotions in your body, not just in your mind. So when the hurt repeated, your body began to carry it like stored weight. You felt tired in a way sleep did not fix. You felt heavy even on good days. Maybe you thought you were just exhausted. Maybe you blamed work or life or age. But the truth was deeper. You were carrying unprocessed pain that never got the space it deserved. You remember times when you wanted to speak up but did not. Not because you lacked words, but because you feared what honesty might cost you. You feared being seen as difficult. You feared being abandoned. You feared that if you stopped being understanding, you would lose connection. So you swallowed your truth and told yourself it was fine. Carl Jung spoke about the shadow, the parts of us we push away because they feel unacceptable. For empaths, the shadow often holds anger and resentment. You learned early that being gentle kept you safe. So when anger appeared, you buried it. You told yourself you should not feel that way. You told yourself to rise above it. But what gets buried does not disappear. It waits. Inside you, a split began to form. One part of you stayed kind and forgiving. Another part grew quiet and watchful. This second part noticed every broken promise. It remembered every moment you felt unseen. It held on to the truth you did not feel allowed to say. This inner division created tension. You felt it as restlessness, as overthinking at night, as a strange distance from yourself. You might remember the moment you realized you were changing. Maybe it was when someone disappointed you and you did not cry. You just felt numb. Or maybe it was when someone asked for your help and your first feeling was not compassion, but fatigue. That scared you. You wondered what was happening to you. You wondered if you were losing your best quality. Repeated hurt does not harden an empath in obvious ways. It does not turn you cold overnight. It makes you cautious. It makes you hesitate before opening up. It makes you question your instincts. You start doubting the very sensitivity that once guided you. You ask yourself if you see too much or feel too much. You wonder if life would be easier if you were less. Your inner world becomes crowded with conflicting thoughts. You want connection, but you fear it. You crave closeness, but you prepare for pain. You want to trust, but your body tightens when you try. This creates a quiet loneliness that is hard to explain. You can be surrounded by people and still feel alone inside your own experience. There is also grief in this stage. Not just grief for what others did to you, but grief for who you were before you learned these lessons. You remember when your heart felt lighter. You remember when giving did not cost you so much. That version of you feels far away, and you miss them deeply. You may have noticed that you became more introspective. You spent more time inside your thoughts. You analyzed conversations. You replayed moments. You searched for meaning. This is where philosophy begins to quietly enter your life. You start asking deeper questions. Why do people hurt those who care? Why does kindness attract selfishness? What is the cost of staying open in a world that does not protect the soft? These questions do not come from bitterness. They come from a deep desire to understand. Understanding has always been your way of surviving. But now, even understanding feels heavy. You begin to sense that something inside you is asking for change. Not a loud demand. A quiet pull. At this stage, you are not broken. You are not weak. You are not failing. You are in the middle of an internal transformation that most people never notice. Your soul is trying to protect itself without losing its essence. It does not know how yet. So it experiments. It withdraws a little. It observes more. It feels tired and confused. If this feels familiar, it is because you have lived it. You have always lived from the inside out. And this is only the beginning of what happens when an empath is hurt repeatedly. You remember the phase that followed the confusion. It was quieter, less dramatic. On the outside, nothing seemed wrong. You were still functioning. You still showed up. People still saw you as calm, caring, dependable. But inside, something had pulled back. Not fully. Just enough to protect itself. You may have noticed that you started watching people more closely. Not in a suspicious way. More in a careful way. You listened not just to words, but to tone. You noticed patterns. You noticed who only came to you when they needed something. You noticed who disappeared when you needed support. This awareness did not make you feel powerful. It made you tired. You had always trusted your intuition, but now it felt conflicted. One part of you sensed danger early. Another part told you to ignore it. You did not want to become cynical. You did not want to judge people unfairly. So you stayed in the middle. You noticed red flags, then talked yourself out of them. This inner debate drained you more than any argument ever could. You might remember feeling guilty for pulling back. When you did not reply as quickly. When you said no and felt your chest tighten afterward. When you chose silence instead of explaining yourself. You were not used to boundaries. They felt unnatural, almost selfish. You worried that protecting yourself meant hurting others. That thought stayed with you. Psychology explains that when a person experiences repeated emotional pain, the mind looks for ways to reduce exposure. For empaths, this often shows up as emotional withdrawal rather than anger. You did not lash out. You dimmed yourself. You shared less. You laughed a little quieter. You kept deeper thoughts to yourself. You may have felt a strange emptiness during this time. Not sadness exactly. More like a hollow space where warmth used to be. Things that once moved you deeply now barely reached you. Music felt flatter. Conversations felt shallow. You wondered if something was wrong with you. You wondered if this was what growing up felt like. But deep down, you knew it was not just maturity. It was protection. Your nervous system was tired of being shocked. So it lowered the volume on everything. Joy and pain together. This numbing felt safer, but it also felt like a loss. You grieved quietly for your own depth. Carl Jung spoke about individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating all parts of yourself. For you, this stage was uncomfortable because it forced you to meet parts you had ignored. The part that felt resentment. The part that felt anger. The part that wanted to say enough. These parts did not make you cruel. They made you human. You may remember moments when anger surfaced unexpectedly. A small comment that hit too deep. A request that felt like too much. You surprised yourself with how strongly you reacted inside. Even if you stayed calm on the outside, something burned within you. You felt ashamed of it. You told yourself you were overreacting. But that anger carried information. Anger for an empath is often a signal that a boundary has been crossed too many times. It is not about wanting to harm. It is about wanting to stop being harmed. Because you were not taught how to express it safely, it stayed trapped inside you. Over time, it turned inward. This is when self-doubt grew stronger. You questioned your perceptions. You wondered if you were imagining things. You wondered if you expected too much. You wondered if your needs were unreasonable. You became skilled at seeing other perspectives, but lost touch with your own. You might remember feeling responsible for other people's emotions. If someone pulled away, you assumed you did something wrong. If someone was cold, you searched your memory for mistakes. This habit kept you stuck. It kept you focused outward when your inner world needed attention. During this stage, loneliness changed its shape. You were not alone in the physical sense. But you felt unseen. You felt like no one asked how you were in a way that truly invited honesty. And even when they did, you did not know how to answer anymore. The words felt too heavy. So you said you were fine? You may have started craving solitude. Not because you hated people, but because being around them required energy you did not have. Solitude became the only place where you did not have to perform emotional labor. Where you did not have to absorb anyone else's feelings. Where you could finally exhale. At the same time, solitude scared you. Without others to focus on, your own feelings became louder. Old memories surfaced. Moments you brushed aside now demanded attention. You felt waves of sadness come and go without clear reasons. This was not weakness. This was delayed processing. Repeated hurt often teaches empaths to abandon themselves in small ways. You ignore your limits. You minimize your pain. You tell yourself others have it worse. Over time, this creates an internal disconnect. You live in your head more than your body. You think about feelings instead of feeling them. You may remember moments when your body spoke louder than your mind. Tight shoulders. Shallow breathing. A constant pressure in your chest. These were not random. Your body was holding what your voice never released. It was asking for safety in its own language. At this point in the journey, many empaths feel lost. Not because they do not know who they are, but because who they are no longer fits the roles they have been playing. You sense that continuing the same way will cost you too much. But you do not yet know another way to exist. This stage feels like standing in between. You are not who you were. You are not yet who you will become. It is uncomfortable. It is quiet. It is deeply personal. And it is necessary. If you recognize yourself here, know this. Nothing inside you has gone wrong. Your system is adjusting. Your soul is learning. And even though it feels heavy now, this phase is preparing you for a deeper kind of strength. One that does not require you to disappear to survive. You remember when the awareness finally became impossible to ignore. It was not a single moment. It was a slow accumulation. A weight that kept pressing until something inside you said stop. You may not have said the word out loud, but you felt it clearly in your body. A quiet refusal to keep bleeding in the same places. This is the stage where you begin to see your own patterns with painful clarity. You notice how often you put others first. How often you sense discomfort and rush to fix it. How often you ignored your own needs because they felt inconvenient. This realization does not feel empowering at first. It feels heavy. It feels like regret. You might remember replaying past relationships and seeing them differently. Moments that once felt normal now look unbalanced. You see how much you gave. How little you asked for. How often you stayed when leaving would have been kinder to yourself. This awareness can bring shame, but it does not have to. You did what you knew how to do at the time. Psychology explains this as learned behavior. Many empaths learned early that love was earned through emotional labor. You became attentive because it kept you safe. You became understanding because it reduced conflict. These strategies worked once. They just stopped working later. That does not mean they were wrong. It means you have outgrown them. During this phase, self-compassion feels strangely difficult. You are gentle with everyone else, yet harsh with yourself. You blame yourself for not knowing sooner. You ask why you allowed it to happen. You forget that you were operating from empathy, not ignorance. You were choosing connection over protection because connection mattered to you. Carl Jung spoke about the moment when unconscious patterns become conscious. He believed this was the beginning of real change. For you, this moment feels uncomfortable because it removes denial. You can no longer pretend everything is fine. But it also gives you something new. Choice. You may remember the first time you did not rush to explain yourself. The first time you did not absorb someone else's bad mood. The first time you let silence exist without trying to fill it. These moments felt awkward. They felt unnatural. But they also felt honest. As you begin to honor your inner signals, guilt rises. You worry you are becoming cold. You worry you are losing your kindness. But what is really happening is balance. You are learning that care does not require self-sacrifice. That love does not require exhaustion. That empathy does not mean endless availability. This stage often brings grief back to the surface. Not the raw grief of being hurt, but the quiet grief of accepting reality. Accepting that some people cannot meet you where you stand. Accepting that your depth will not always be mirrored. Accepting that wanting more does not make you demanding. You may notice a shift in your energy. You feel less pulled toward chaos. Less drawn to people who need fixing. You start craving neutrality. Peace. Emotional honesty. This craving is not weakness. It is wisdom developing. At the same time, you may feel alone in a new way. As you step out of old roles, some connections fade. People who benefited from your constant giving may react with confusion or distance. This can hurt deeply. It may feel like rejection, but it is actually information. You begin to understand that not everyone who liked you loved you. Some liked what you provided. Your listening. Your calming presence. Your willingness to stay. When those things change, the connection changes. This realization can sting, but it also frees you. Your inner dialogue starts to soften. Instead of asking what is wrong with me, you start asking what do I need right now? This question may feel unfamiliar. You might not have an immediate answer. That is okay. The act of asking is already a shift towards self-trust. You may remember moments when your body relaxed for no obvious reason. A deep breath you did not force. A night of sleep that felt deeper. A sense of grounding that surprised you. These are signs that your system is beginning to feel safer with you. This phase is about reclaiming your inner authority. You stop outsourcing your worth to how useful you are. You stop measuring love by how much you endure. You begin to understand that your sensitivity is not the problem. The lack of boundaries was. You still feel deeply. You still notice everything. But now there is a growing awareness of when to engage and when to step back. This discernment is not numbness. It is maturity. There may be moments when you miss the old version of yourself. The endlessly giving one. The always available one. But you also recognize how tired they were. How lonely they felt even while surrounded by people. This recognition brings tenderness instead of judgment. If you are here now, you are not closing your heart. You are learning how to hold it with care. You are not becoming less empathetic. You are becoming more whole. This stage does not feel like a victory. It feels like a quiet turning point. A subtle but irreversible shift. And from here, the journey moves inward in a deeper way, toward rebuilding trust not with others first, but with yourself. You remember when the focus finally turned inward in a deeper way. Not just noticing patterns, but sitting with yourself long enough to feel what had been avoided. This stage feels slower, quieter. There is less urgency to fix anything. More space to listen. You may have noticed that your inner world became richer and heavier at the same time. You begin to feel emotions that were postponed. Sadness that never had time to breathe. Anger that was pushed aside to keep peace. Disappointment that was minimized because you wanted to be understanding. These feelings do not arrive all at once. They come in waves. Sometimes gently. Sometimes unexpectedly strong. You may remember moments when you cried without a clear reason, or when a memory surfaced while doing something ordinary. These moments are not random. Your system finally feels safe enough to release what it carried. You are no longer in survival mode. So the heart speaks. Psychology explains that healing often begins when the nervous system shifts from constant alertness into regulation. For you, this means your body is learning that it does not have to stay tense. That it does not have to scan every interaction for danger. This learning takes time and patience. You might notice that your sensitivity feels different now. It is still there, but it is less overwhelming. You can feel deeply without losing yourself as easily. When someone is upset, you notice it, but you no longer absorb it automatically. There is a small but important pause. A moment where you choose how close to step in. This pause is powerful. It gives you space to ask yourself what feels right. Not what is expected. Not what will keep things smooth. But what is true? This question becomes a quiet guide inside you. Carl Jung believed that true growth comes from integrating the shadow with compassion. For you, this means accepting that you have limits. Accepting that you can say no and still be kind. Accepting that anger does not make you dangerous. It makes you honest. During this stage, you may start redefining love. You realize that love without respect slowly drains you. That connection without safety slowly erodes your spirit. This understanding is not cynical. It is grounded. It comes from lived experience. You may notice that your standards change. Not in a harsh way. In a clearer way. You pay attention to how people make you feel over time. Not just in intense moments, but in quiet ones. You notice whether your body relaxes or tightens around them. You trust this information more than words. This is also the stage where you begin to forgive yourself. Not in a dramatic way. In small moments. When you catch yourself thinking I should have known better, and instead say I did the best I could with what I knew. This shift is gentle. But it heals something deep. You may remember feeling a new kind of strength. Not loud. Not forceful. It feels like steadiness. Like being rooted. You do not need to explain yourself as much. You do not need to prove your intentions. You trust them. At the same time, vulnerability takes on a new meaning. You are still open, but more selective. You share your inner world with those who show care through consistency. You no longer give access simply because someone asks. This is not punishment. It is protection. There can be moments of grief here too. Grief for relationships that cannot meet you where you are now. Grief for dynamics that once felt familiar but no longer feel healthy. Letting go does not always look like distance. Sometimes it looks like seeing clearly and choosing differently. You may notice that your inner critic becomes quieter. Not gone, but less dominant. When it speaks, you are more likely to respond with curiosity instead of belief. You ask where the voice came from. You recognize that much of it formed when you were trying to survive emotionally. This stage often brings a sense of meaning. You start to see how your experiences shaped your depth. How your pain refined your empathy rather than destroying it. You realize that your sensitivity survived because it was never the problem. You might feel a desire to create, to express, to make sense of what you have lived through. This expression may be private or shared. It does not matter. What matters is that your inner world finally has a voice. You also begin to feel hope differently. Not as a wish that others will change, but as trust that you can handle whatever comes. That you can leave when something hurts. That you can stay when something feels right. This phase is quieter than the earlier ones. There is less drama. More truth. You are not chasing healing anymore. You are living it in small choices. In how you rest. In how you speak to yourself. In how you listen to your body. If you are here, you are not just recovering. You are rebuilding. Not the old version of yourself, but a more integrated one. Someone who can feel deeply and stay grounded. Someone who honors their heart without abandoning it. This is not the end of the journey. But it is a place of stability. A place where your inner world feels more like home. And from here, something new begins to form. A way of being that is both soft and strong. You reach a point where the struggle softens into understanding. Not the kind that excuses harm, but the kind that brings clarity. You no longer ask why this happened to you with desperation. You ask it with calm curiosity. And the answer does not come as a single thought. It comes as a feeling of alignment inside your chest. You remember when peace stopped feeling boring and started feeling sacred. When calm no longer felt empty, but full. You realize that intensity was never proof of connection. Consistency was. Safety was. Respect was. This understanding settles into you slowly, like your body finally believing what your mind already knew. At this stage, your empathy matures. It no longer flows outward without direction. It includes you. You notice when you are tired and you rest without guilt. You notice when something feels off and you listen without arguing with yourself. This self-trust becomes your new foundation. Psychology calls this integration. All the parts of you that were split by repeated hurt begin to work together again. The sensitive part. The protective part. The thoughtful part. None of them dominate. They cooperate. You feel more whole, even though you are still human and still learning. Carl Jung believed that wholeness was not about perfection, but about embracing contradictions. You embody this now. You can be gentle and firm, open and discerning, loving and boundaried. These qualities no longer feel like opposites. They feel like balance. You may notice that your relationships change in quality rather than quantity. You are less interested in being understood by everyone. You value being respected by a few. Conversations feel slower and more honest. You no longer rush intimacy. You let it build naturally, or not at all. You remember when being alone felt like punishment. Now it feels like choice. Solitude becomes a place of restoration, not escape. You enjoy your own presence. You trust your inner rhythm. Silence no longer scares you because it is no longer filled with self-judgment. Your past no longer defines you, but it informs you. You do not erase what hurt you. You carry it as wisdom. You recognize patterns sooner. You leave situations that drain you without needing a dramatic reason. You understand that peace does not need justification. There is a quiet confidence that settles into you. Not arrogance. Not armor. It feels like knowing you will be okay even if someone does not choose you. Even if something ends. Even if life shifts again. This confidence is rooted in self-companionship. You may feel a deeper compassion for others now, but it is cleaner. You can see pain without trying to fix it. You can listen without absorbing it. You can care without losing yourself. This is empathy in its healthiest form. You also feel compassion for your younger self. The one who stayed too long. The one who explained too much. The one who believed love meant endurance. You do not judge them anymore. You thank them for surviving the way they knew how. There is meaning in what you have lived. Not because pain is good, but because you grew honest through it. You became someone who understands emotional depth not as theory, but as experience. This gives your presence a quiet weight. People feel safe around you, even when you say no. You might notice that you attract different energy now. Less chaos. Less neediness. More mutual respect. This is not luck. It is resonance. You no longer vibrate at the frequency of self-abandonment. You vibrate at the frequency of self-respect. Your sensitivity remains your greatest strength. It was never meant to be given away without care. It was meant to guide you. To inform you. To connect you to what is real. Now it does that without costing you your peace. You may still feel pain sometimes. Healing does not erase feeling. It changes your relationship with it. Pain becomes information, not identity. It moves through you instead of settling inside you. At this final stage, you understand something deeply important. You were never too much. You were simply in environments that asked you to shrink. Now you choose spaces where your depth is welcomed, not managed. You live slower. You listen more to your body than to expectations. You define success as inner calm rather than outer approval. You trust that the right connections will meet you without effort. And perhaps the most important shift of all is this. You no longer need to be understood by everyone to feel valid. You understand yourself. And that changes everything. If you have walked this entire inner journey, know this. You did not lose your heart. You learned how to hold it. You did not harden. You refined. You did not break. You transformed. This is what happens internally when an empath is hurt repeatedly. Not destruction. Not bitterness. But a quiet evolution into someone who feels deeply and stands firmly. Someone who knows that empathy and self-respect can exist in the same breath. And once you reach this place, you never truly go back. You move forward differently. More aware. More grounded. More at home within yourself.